Hello everybody, this is Jay with another Encyclopedia update. Right, now we finally have some characters to take a look at. And, silly person that I was, I forgot to uncheck things. But anyway, Colonel Covert is the Southern General who, well, he's mentioned in the game a lot earlier than he is in the comic. Essentially, Colonel Covert is the man behind some very interesting choices in the war, and he uses rogue like nobody's business. Perhaps not in the game though, we shall see. So, yeah, that info again. He's determined to win the war at any cost. Yeah. Grand Admiral Hoffer, God bless him. Both in the comic and the game, he's in for about, 20 minutes, if that. Not very long. Grand Admiral Hoffer was not in the comic located in New Paris, as I've mentioned. Or as I'm going to mention, New Paris is somewhere that Rogue just passes through that's held by Nauts. And his portrait, just like all the portraits, will basically be close-ups of the head model. Meh, you know. It was okay for the time. Captain Natashov, Boobs McGee! She does not exist anywhere outside the game, and God, that jawline! That jawline still gets me even now. And the concept art was alright, and, well, how do we get from concept art to this? You know? Not a complaint, just weird. And yes, this is what the Traitor General looks like even before we actually see him. He actually looks a lot better than he does in the comic. Yep, this is the man who's responsible for the Quartzo Massacre. Now, as to his comic, we will be seeing him in a bonus update, but unlocking the comic of the Traitor General requires you to get pretty much 90% of the salvage in the game. So, yeah. GIs, we finally get the GI comic. That's a GI. That's lots of GIs preparing for the Quartz Zone. And this was actually a flashback episode of the comic, or prog, as 2000 AD calls them. And, yeah, wasn't particularly fun flashback. We might get into that. Now, consulting here, we have the concept art for the attack hopper, which, yeah, fairly low tech, but interesting. The comic for the Black Mare tank. Yeah, don't really want to screw with those, do you? The art and the comic for the good old decapitators. Interestingly, they're pretty much like in the comic, only there's less of them. In the comic, basically entire fields of them are sown. Now, new here is the deploy hopper, which is basically a troop gunship, and I believe the info will bear this out. Yep, pretty much. Then we have the comic for the drill probes. Yeah, it looks familiar, doesn't it? This was Bagman's death, and it's pretty much one of the few times that drill probes appear in the comic, strangely. But, c'est la vie. Hell Cannon, we still haven't unlocked the art. That'll apparently be next time. Naught heavy support armor. Yeah. Those weren't actually fuel pods in the back, they were missile pods, and they're a bugger to kill. Patrol boats, they don't really turn up too much. Funnily enough, there should be a comic of those, but no. No, there isn't. There isn't a comic of those in the game. There is, obviously, in the comic. Pillboxes, we have the concept art. Well, yeah. It's concept art, it's pretty basic. And the original comics, where, again, there's really no design differences. Finally, we have the Traitor General's hopper, which, yeah, I didn't really notice how heavily armoured it was in-game, but there we go. It was pretty beefy. Now, one thing about the updates, they will slow down, because obviously the requirements are going to get more and more insane as we go along. By the way, as of the next game update next week, we will be more than halfway through the game. So, yeah. EMP troops. We hate these guys. In-game effect, as you've seen, is that basically all your biochip powers in your HUD go down. Concept art for them, it's a pretty interesting EMP thing. Canon. Oh well. I believe we have... Yep, we have comics for the Kashan. I might have already shown them. We definitely have a comic for the Lizuka Trooper. Yeah, not long for this world. Mortar troops, we just have the info, but basically they're upgraded Lizuka troops. And, yeah, they can be quite annoying. We'll be seeing a lot more of them. Apparently, we've got all the infantry, not tactical armor, which, as we've seen, is fine so long as you can stealth melee it. And of course, we could probably mortar the hell out of them. We do have the concept art for that. Now, these do not appear in the comic, as far as I know, at least not in the original Rogue arc. But it's a good design, it's good, solid, fits with the setting. Navy Sergeant, well, we rarely ever see these guys, but they exist. They do not, as far as I know, exist in the comic. In the comic, Navy officers basically wear the same respective lack of armor that normal Marines do. Because after all, over the water, well, yeah. Basically, imagine these guys without face masks, and you've got actual Nord sailors from the comics. Because, as mentioned, over the sea, the air is relatively fine, but the water is deadly acidic and generally not to be drunk. Concept art, well, yeah, a little brighter than it would have been in-game, but the general point is gotten across, and I think that's cool. Right, we have art for the Sergeant. Again, these guys, as far as I know, generally don't exist in the comic. Or rather, they do, but they're wearing the same armor as everyone else. Shotgun troops. Obviously, there are Norts with shotguns in the comic. But, yeah. They're mainly a unit created for the game. And, yeah, they're annoying. Snipers, these do exist, and they do wear this exact armor. yeah, there's not much new they're telling about snipers, so woo. Okay, and finally the Sun Legions, who do exist in the comic as noted. Yeah. I really don't know what to say about Sun Legions, because they're meant to be elite troops, but look at that. They're basically people with heavy grenades and hang gliders. What kind of batshit insane army fields that and expects to live? In older wars, I could sort of understand it, but yeah. Anyway, as you can see, we really don't have a lot left to unlock, so I shall see you next time for the Encyclopedia update, and take care.